Greetings to everyone who is watching this webcast. I take immense pleasure in welcoming you all to this part one of three webcasts that we are doing on how to harness the digital workspace and to talk about the benefits and the challenges. On behalf of ManageEngine family, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all our customers, partners, and users who are currently evaluating our products. Thank you very much. Let me introduce myself. My name is Santosh Narasimhamurthy, and I am a technical account manager for Endpoint and Management Security line of products. I take care of North American region, and I have close to 10 years of experience in endpoint management. I take care of my customers by helping them to choose the right products when it comes to endpoint management and security, and I help them implement the products as well. Now, usually we meet our customers through user conferences, seminars, and workshops, but due to this whole COVID 19 situation, we are unable to meet all our customers. We miss those face to face interactions with our customers. In view of this, we want to get connected to you guys and share our thoughts, share the benefits and the challenges that our other customers face during this COVID 19 in terms of remote work, in terms of management of endpoints. So that's why we have initiated this three-part webcast to talk about how you can harness the digital workspace and what are the different benefits, and also to talk about different challenges that you face as part of remote work. To talk about the benefits and the challenges, we are going to have two guests with us. One from our own ManageEngine side, Mr. Rumanas Prabhu. He is the global head for technical support for Endpoint Management Suite of products, and he is going to share his expertise with us on these lines. We have other guest who is our customer, Mr. Balaji Selvaraj. He is the IT manager for Big Lakes County, Canada, and he is managing over a huge number of users and multiple offices. He's using our ManageEngine product, and he's also going to share his experiences and the challenges that he had during this remote work. So, two of our guests are going to talk about it. And Balaji Silvaraj, can you give a little greetings to our viewers and then we'll proceed from there on?
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be part of this show. Thank you, Santosh. Thank you, Ramanas. It's been a wonderful journey with ManageEngine. It's nice to see you guys in Toronto last year. Too bad we are not able to see this year. Hopefully, we should be able to see again next year. Just a bit about Big Lakes County using the ManageEngine product. I really like the product. It's been over 2 years, and happy to be part of this show to give a bit more my experience on it.
Thank you very much for the greetings, Balaji. Yes, we miss seeing our customers as well. And we believe this whole situation will change, and we should be able to meet you and other customers in Canada in the upcoming events that we have. Hopefully, the situations will change. Thank you very much for the introduction, Balaji. And I have my second guest, who is none other than Rumanas Prabhu, who is the global head, as I mentioned. Rumanas, can you share a few words or greet our viewers, and then we will proceed from there.
Hi, Santosh. Nice to see you as a host of the event. Hello, Balaji Selvaraj. Thanks for joining us today for this event. Viewers, hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to see you all through this online webcast. I wish everyone that you're safe, healthy, and being a blessing to others during these days. Welcome to the session.
Thank you very much, Rumanas. Looking forward to hear more expertise from you. And I will finish the question with Balaji and then come back to you. Let's talk more on endpoint management. Harnessing digital workspace. Now, today's workspace or corporate environment has changed a lot, especially due to this entire COVID 19 situation, where we have moved from a traditional point to a modern, more of a modern management approach. So, in order to understand that, let's talk about what led to this digital transformation, right? And a question comes to my mind: who led the digital transformation in your company, right? The sarcasm is the COVID 19 for some case. And it seems like during the COVID 19 situation, they were forced to move to a digital transformation where things thought that we thought were not possible of moving into a remote workforce. Now, it is proved that 100% of our workforce can be from remote work. And that's one of the important changes or challenges that we are going to face in the future as IT administrator as well. We are going to have majority of our users connecting from remote work. Even before the COVID-19 situation, Gartner predicted that by 2030 there will be a demand for remote work and it will increase by 30%. But thanks to COVID 19, we have moved 10 years ahead now. And current prediction by Gartner is pre pandemic, 30% of workforce. Now, post pandemic, it's going to be close to 50% of our workforce will remain in remote work. So when I say moving 50% of our remote workforce, I mean my workforce to remote work, which adds additional challenge to my IT team, managing and providing security to my endpoints is also a challenge. Now for my IT, they will now be managing three types of users. One who is a regular user with a VPN. He has been a remote workforce all along. Even before COVID 19, we had a policy for them. We had management strategies of how to patch them, and we know how to secure these endpoints. Probably we have given corporate endpoints to them, and this is a known user. Now we have provided the users with a VPN just for the work from home. That's the second type of user. We do not have a policy for them. We do not know whether they might invite malware or visit malicious sites. But then, due to this entire COVID thing, they are moved for work from home. There are third type of users who does not require a VPN. You have all our applications on cloud, which means all your applications can run via internet. So these three type of endpoints or users we will have to manage, and we will have to secure these endpoints as well. When I say managing and securing endpoints, we need a solution which can do all this from one console. And we call it as unified endpoint management, right? So, what is this unified endpoint management? A famous marketer, Forrester, defines the UEM or unified endpoint management as a product that could manage and secure all the employees' laptops and mobile phones from a single console, right? We have to manage all these from a single console, and we are also moving to an era where a lot of our workforce is going to connect through the internet. But then we will have to manage these because these endpoints are going to carry the digital or the company's data in them. So we are moving from a traditional IT or from a traditional setup to a modern IT setup. We are going from a single device to multiple devices. Traditionally, the users come to the office, they use one device, or even when they're on field, there used to be just one device. And it was more of device centric. We don't have to worry about it. We patch them, we take care of this. We had point products, client management tools in order to manage them. But then now we are moving into a multiple device type of approach where single user who is going to have multiple devices. Example is they are going to access email from their laptops and they are going to access it from their mobile phones as well. And right now we are having more devices coming in like kiosks or tablets in the corporates, single user using multiple devices. Now we have to secure data at each endpoint. The same data has to be secure at each endpoint depending on which device they are on and how it is transformed, moving from a business owned setup to a user and business owned setup. Meaning, previously we had all corporate devices. Now we are forced to manage user devices as well because they are going to access corporate endpoints. So, user and business owned devices from legacy apps or corporate network apps, we are going to move towards more of cloud managed and SaaS based application. So we have to define the endpoint security in a whole new different way. I'll talk about why this is very important. From a manual into an automated mode, from a reactive into a proactive standpoint. Instead of waiting for the attack to happen, we have to be proactive. We are thinking about how to remediate them even before that, detect them and provide remediation for it. Things like encryption, things like EDR is going towards proactive approach of modern IT. From a high touch to a self-service mode of everything. For example, moving from imaging to OS reset is a modern IT. So we are forced to move to this modern IT or a modern digital workspace, and we are forced to manage these endpoints at this level as well. Now, we at ManageEngine conceptually think about how do I manage and how do I secure these endpoints. Previously, we had client management tools on one side for a comparison and how this endpoint security has evolved. So, on one side, I have endpoint management to do asset management, mobile device management, taking remote control, deploying applications, deploying small configurations, imaging process. Of course, patching was also part of it. We had client management features that we focused on. Right now, we are moving more towards endpoint security features. These are two different portfolios that we have to get it addressed. At the endpoint level, we have to go for whitelisting or allowed application, complete comprehensive vulnerability and patch management process, encryption, managing encryption on these endpoints, a comprehensive firewall that could block all the attacks, and a proper antivirus should be there on these endpoints. Browser security. You remember we spoke about moving to more towards SaaS based application, which increases the risk of potential malwares that could intrude through browsers. So we need a comprehensive browser security that is required as well. Conditional exchange access for emails, NAC solution, network access control for devices that are going to connect through the corporate devices, corporate network. So whenever they enter your office premises or back to office, you need a NAC solution. Why? Because they might carry risks, potential risks that can harm your network. We are going to talk about this with our experts and they're going to answer us as well. Data leak prevention, how to restrict the data that's been copied and taken out and how to have a control over it. And new concept of endpoint privileged access management that's been there in the market for a while, and that's also an important security feature. So these are the features at the security level that is required at an endpoint in order to secure this endpoint at this digital workspace wherever they are. And we are also designing our products in line of that, where if you look at this chart that talks about different features, that we have at the endpoint management level and endpoint security level. We have separate products as well as one suite that gives us all these features in one unified endpoint management security, which can host right from security features like vulnerability management to remote advanced remote control on the management side. We'll talk about those aspects as well. Now, this is how the entire unified endpoint management or managing endpoints have evolved. And we saw how we are moving into a remote work culture and how 50% of our workforce is moving towards that. Now, while we have this remote workforce, which also poses a lot of challenges on the IT side to manage these workforce, there's going to be challenges in terms of network, there's going to be challenges in terms of bandwidth, and different challenges. So, with that in mind, I'm going to ask the question to one of our guests. Let's see how he has managed. And Balaji, thank you very much for joining this webcast. So, in your environment, when we are adapting towards work from home, how did you manage your endpoints? How did you adopt to the new normal? Can you throw a little light on that for our viewers?
That was always a challenging, right? When somebody at work inside the network, you are under the control of your network. You know what's happening in and out. But when somebody is outside the network, it's always a challenge. Let's say uh, inside I have the speed that I wanted, the bandwidth that I needed, right? And I set up the traffic rules, and the firewall follows the procedure. Standard IT procedure, which is what it's easier for the as an administrator, it's easy to manage. And when things change, like the pandemic, now user has to start work from home. Um, at least the place where I live, the speed is an issue, right? Uh, they're all rural users that live in the rural areas. They don't have a great internet. Their speed might be like maybe 4 or 5 Mbps. If they get 10 Mbps speed, that's lucky. So that is definitely a challenge, right? Uh, so first, if I want to, even for me to update an endpoint, if I want to update a patch in it, right? It's not an easy task. Uh, when they are in the network, you know what is the speed, everything you know. But when they're outside, it is not your familiar network. Yeah. That was definitely a challenge. What it can take in 5 minutes, it's probably going to take 20 minutes or even more than that. And in between, if they get disconnected, that's even more challenge. You got to start over. So those were the challenges that I have faced.
Thank you very much, Balaji, for sharing the insights about how you have adopted into the work from home culture. And yes, it's been a challenge for everyone. Now, Romanas, how did our customers, or from a different user perspective, from the support end, how did the customers manage to adopt into work from home? If you can share some expertise over that or your experiences from interacting with the customers, it will be really helpful.
Hey, Santosh, that's one of the really interesting questions. Now, as a support, we have had a lot of interaction with such customers. During the interaction, we were able to see a pattern which is being found between these different customers that we work with. I'm going to show you some interesting information. Let me show you that quickly. So, based on our interactions with the IT team, or as standard as we call Chief Information Security Officer and his team, they had two major challenge. One, business continuity. They want to have their business to be continued. When I say business continuity, there are different type of businesses like fashion designing, automobiles, healthcare, right? You can have different types of businesses. So their action plan and operations is entirely different. So what we are talking about here is how the business application which they use is able to be accessed and effectively used for business from the IT point of view. So that's what we mean here. So most of the organizations has kept this as priority number one, and followed by that we had the management and security of the endpoints, because they are not in one single place. Now they are scattered, and how do you manage them, and how do you establish connection, and how do you secure them? So that's the second major challenge what we have seen. So based on this, we could focus on the applications. When we focus on the applications, the first layer of people who had their cloud applications, that means they have ported their applications on the cloud, and because of this, the work from home or work from anywhere is not a challenge for them. So they are able to easily adapt to this. However, what they have to do is do some administrative settings, challenges, or enable multi-factor authentication, things like that. So they are one set of users. The second set of users are basically having applications which are secure enough to be exposed outside world to the internet, so that their users could hit their own application server and start working. This is built either in their own infrastructure or on a hosted solution or on a public cloud if the data is secure. So we have seen these kind of people and manage themselves to adapt to the pandemic situation where they have to reach and use their business application. This is second category. And third, what we have seen is because of the nature, if it is financial segment, or which is a data which cannot be shared with others, if there is any such business entity, or the application is so old, it's a legacy application, you cannot port it immediately on cloud and ensure the privacy and security on them. Now they have to be really careful enough and have the applications available inside the office and ensure people are securely connecting to the office and then using it. Now, from the application business applications point of view, that's what we have witnessed. And from this, what we could see is the landscape of work from home. For the last one is coming here as first two categories: regular users with VPN. That means they always have the VPN connectivity, so whenever they are not in office, they are going to use it. It's regular. So from their point of view, there's nothing new. The second category is because of this movement, you have had a lot of people working from home. And for the third scenario, which we saw in the last example, it's going to be within the office, though they have to have more VPN users. And it's not only about the users licenses, it's also about the infrastructure and security permissions which you have to create. That's a lot of work over a night that it has to be done. And the third category is people with cloud applications, or people who could move their applications to the edge or host in a cloud where they are able to use without VPN. They are able to manage their businesses. Now, this one is with respect to business and people connecting to the business application, right? Now, combining all this stuff, this is what we see in three major areas and challenges within that. Enabling work from home is the biggest challenge in terms of infrastructure, access, administrative work, working towards that. The other one is managing the work from home devices. If you have to give them the new device, now, during this pandemic, that is a challenge. So if it is a legacy device, you have to follow a different approach. And if it is modern device, that you have to have a vendor who could directly ship and from unboxing that, the end user should be able to enroll the device, for which you should have your IT infrastructure ready for the management. Now, as I showed in the first slide, the basic need is to go have a business continuity, business application reachable, available, usable, and then managing it. But a new device kind of scenario will put manage and secure endpoints in first position, where they have to provide and ensure that they are able to enroll and start managing it, and then provide access to the applications and secure the endpoints, right? This is how it goes. We have had seen bring your own device, and a uh, new interesting stuff like bring your own internet, because most of the device management, device security dependent on patching and few other things which has to be done on it. And for this, they have to depend on the end user's internet and bandwidth. So probably that's something interesting that we have found. We'll see more on that later. And moving on to security, yes, there were a lot of things from security point of view which has to be taken care when, especially when you have moved the devices from one secure single place office to scattered locations, work from different locations, different network, different level of patching, different level of configurations. Some might have relaxed the policies because they are working from home. uh, they couldn't do the business applications. For some reasons they have to relax it. Now this is the situation. So now you have to ensure your endpoints are secure and data in your endpoint is secure. You don't leak the data. You do the patching that is known vulnerability. You do the patching for the unknown. When I say patching, I mean it is remediation for the unknown, like removing unwanted applications, having only wanted applications, configuring the ports, protocols, settings in a correct manner, securing the browser. Now, all these things ensure that endpoint is protected. When it is protected, the data inside the endpoint is safe and you are continuing the business normally. Now, this is what we have found with the interaction during this pandemic with our customers. And the most interesting stuff is about bring your own device scenarios. You could see more interesting details in the link given below. They say that 80% of the employees use personal technology for business, right? We could see this increasing, but particularly during pandemic, this has increased. The idea to put this here is, we know that bring your own device is increasing, but at the same time, the risk or the responsibility of the IT team on securing these devices and the business is becoming more complex. Now, this is yet another challenge which we have seen more bring your own device adoption. The reason we were able to talk to the customers about this, and the reason for that, the common reason what we could get that is basically end users would like to have the latest trendy technology driven uh, new devices rather than the office provided devices which are not so latest. Now, because they have the latest devices, they want to use it for the business also. Now that brings a new level of challenge to the IT team, and during this pandemic, this has increased, right? Now, from ManageEngine, what we have done is we have collated all the work from home enablement details, documents, videos, everything put together and given in this URL, which is very useful now. And during the pandemic, when everything was starting in the month of February and March, we were able to collect this, and people, users, actually found it really helpful and used it. So just make sure that you make a visit and get to know about various work from home enablement strategies and the methods to manage and secure them from ManageEngine's endpoint management application. Now, Endpoint movement is inevitable. That's what we have seen during this pandemic. But how to secure them? So it is inevitable. That is for sure, because pre-pandemic it is different. After pandemic, as I said, it is going to change. So it will not go back to pre-pandemic level, but instead there is going to be a new norm of either in office or from home, or you can put it this way, work from anywhere. So the infrastructure to accommodate work from anywhere is the need of the hour. And the techniques and strategies to enable that, manage and secure already exist, right? From the OS level, in the data security level, on the cloud level, it is already available. Now, how do you ensure or define the success to that? It is basically defined by how easily and effectively you are making the change or movement, right? So that is what is all about doing the work from home or work from anywhere. So this is what we have learned during this pandemic by interacting with our customers.
Thank you very much for the expert view, Romanus. That was really helpful. And as we know, we all have adopted into work from home. And I think there were a lot of challenges that we had to face as well. And my question goes to Balaji first. Balaji, what are the different types of changes that you have to make? Because as an IT, managing these endpoints on premises is different from managing them over the internet. So what kind of changes you have to go through in order to accommodate these endpoints into your regular management? Because I heard from you previously that you had low bandwidth. So if you can shed some lights about what were the different changes that you had to make, it will be really helpful for us.
I wouldn't say a changes, but a challenges. Uh, to start with a story, I would say, uh, as I mentioned earlier, the users are in the rural areas. The internet was a concern, uh, and it's always is. Uh, when they are in the network, we know what their speed limit is. When they are outside the network, we don't know what that would be. Especially living in a rural community, I do know that they don't have a good internet signal uh, strength. Uh, so I do have some wireless stick that I was able to provide to the users, which comes an interesting story because we know that wireless sticks work through the cell phone towers. Our cell phone tower has lost connectivity. Even the internet service provider is not able to cope up with the amount of traffic, amount of bandwidth it's been using. Say, for example, uh, I have 100 Mbps up and down in my site, but during this pandemic time, I was getting 60 Mbps. When I called for the support, uh, that's the real answer I got. That's the whole North America is using the internet, and that's the maximum speed that we can provide at this time. So that's a major challenge. Now, my users working from home, they are living in the rural area, so they don't have a proper internet connection. Uh, I do have some wireless stick hub that I was able to provide. So that's one side where the bandwidth is all over the country, it's slow. Now I am providing a stick here that works through the cell phone. The interesting thing happened is that because of the high traffic and bandwidth, I'm assuming that's what it is, the cell phone tower itself had an issue. It just blacked out completely. As a government, we can't even able to call 911. If that is the case, that is a major concern. Uh, the the cell phone provider was able to identify the problem, but it does take a few hours for them to resolve it, which they did. But within that few hours was a major, major challenge. Uh, why? It was probably through the bandwidth, which probably caused their hardware uh, something gone wrong in there.
Thank you very much for the details, Balaji. And it is, yeah, it's really bad to know that even emergency services have has to go down. and this work from home or bad bandwidth is causing even those types of issues on the internet space. So it's good to know that these things are happening. I'm sure a lot of our viewers are also facing similar issues, had faced or facing right now. And probably Romanas, can you share a little bit about this internet usage problems that we had, and if there are any solutions for that from an expert point of view? It'll be great for the end users as well.
One of the major concern during this pandemic was the bandwidth related issue. Yes, that too, particularly for the patching, um, rather than the end user, it's more problem for the organizations. I'll tell you how. Um, See, when the devices were inside, you had more control. So you know which endpoint it has to be deployed, who's the user who's using that, and then at what time you want to do it, and what is the condition, is there any work happening. Now, basically controlled environment, you had a lot of things in control. However, when it moved outside, the challenges are different, right? You don't have it in a controlled environment. So we had one case where the administrator actually has enabled the auto update. Instead of doing it with endpoint management, he has enabled auto update just to ensure that endpoint is secured because of auto update. Now, this has brought two challenges. One is with the version control. You had a lot of controls when it is within the organization. So when the auto update was enabled and opened, the applications in those devices got upgraded, moved to the latest one. Well and good. However, the business application was incompatible with a lot of dependency applications. Now, this has led to a different level of problems where he has to deal with it separately, right? So, moving to a latest version update depends on um, not only on the update but also on the business application, whether you are compatible with that. Only after testing that it has to be done. And the second level of problem is basically the bandwidth, because it does the patching for all applications. It took a lot of bandwidth. Now, the solution we suggest is basically to ensure you still can continue doing the patching with Desktop Central, Unified Endpoint Edition. This will have control over it. However, you have couple of options in it. One, to have the direct download option. So what do you mean by that? So when there is a patch released by Microsoft during second week, you should be able to decide what patches which you have to immediately go and deploy in order to secure the endpoint. So basically 0 days, critical and important patches can be prioritized and sent. Now, since you have the control, you decide the patches and send it across. Now the endpoints can take the downloads not from corporate office directly from here. Instead, it should be taking it directly from the cloud, right? So using the internet of the end user. That's what I previously mentioned it as bring your own internet. So this is in the sharing mode where you actually collaborate with Office instead of all patches being downloaded from the uh, corporate Office. It is distributed across the endpoints with the use of end users internet. So that enables the really required patches to be downloaded in order to secure them, and other patches can be done eventually at later times or when it is time that you reach office that could be accumulated, however way that it is planned. But the most vulnerable things, open vulnerabilities can be patched immediately with control from desktop central and option to download it directly from internet, right? This saves bandwidth, and you go in collaborative mode with the end user and do this management. This way, you should be able to save the bandwidth. One. The other important aspect of this one is basically even at the end user's internet, if it is going to disconnect and come back at some point, the downloads are going to be maintained and resumed from the time or level at which the disconnect happened. So this ensures even disconnect, I mean, internet with a lot of disconnection could be able to download bits and pieces of application updates and then accumulate them together and then do a deployment. So it saves bandwidth from that aspect. So we enable this for the work from home automated. When they are outside, they should be able to direct download and have this resume functionality. When they are inside or in the VPN or inside the office in physically, they should be able to directly use the downloads from the internal server. This is how it is designed in order to address the bandwidth.
Thank you very much, Romanas. And this direct download option, I think, is a very useful feature for all our customers, especially. And Balaji, what do you think about this direct download feature? Do you think it can have a really good impact on environments that requires low bandwidth, or who has to have a control over how patches gets downloaded? Uh, will it be useful for your environment? At least, I mean, in that front, uh, what do you think about this direct download option or the patching?
Uh, Absolutely. Either it's my environment or in general, it is certainly a great one because where there's a place where there's a low bandwidth, this is definitely applicable. And as an IT admin perspective, you still have control of the endpoint. He doesn't have to push the entire updates, but the critical updates. So the device is still under his control. The patches that is required is being pushed, and on top, the best part is it is not affecting on-site either bandwidth or the network or the traffic because it's still the policy is still applied directly into the users from the users network. I think it's definitely a great idea. I would certainly implement in the coming days.
Thank you very much, Balaji. Yes, patching is very important, and optimizing the bandwidth for patching is even more important. And thank you for shedding light on that. And well, we are talking about these internet issues or bandwidth related issues, since we are talking about the remote work or how we have evolved into remote workforce. I have a question in a very different dimension. Um, how did you as a corporate or your organization, how did you collaborate your help desk issues? I know without meeting the people we could have a lot of challenges in conducting meetings or IT admin perspective, especially to troubleshoot and things like that. So during this remote work or during this COVID-19 situation, how did you handle the meetings or the collaborative approach from IT standpoint as well as from a user standpoint? How did you manage all these during these times?
Yeah, let me split this question into two, and I'll answer that. In regards to meetings, right? So, being a government organization, you have both internal meetings and external meetings. You have to deal with external vendors, councils, MLAs. For internal, we are good with the Microsoft Teams or Business Skype. They work very well. Uh, Even when they are on their own network, no problem. That's how the meeting we have been conducting. Anytime we need to bring external users, we used a couple of tools, either Zoom or Cisco WebEx, depends on what. what is that they have on their end as well, or what is that they are comfortable on their side. So we are able to use that. Having said that, there's always a challenge, right? Internal users, at, for internal users, I do have tools like yeah, Desktop Central has its own remote uh, login software. I was able to use that to remote in. Uh, say, for an example, an user having an issues in the meeting. Uh, in the middle of the meeting, or even the start of the meeting, the person is not able to hear, which you probably would have seen. It's a most common problem. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Right. And as an IT administrator, you kind of know what that is. It could be the end user device might be picking up a different volume control. For that, I was using the Desktop Central remote software. I was able to remote in, just go and change the volume settings to a different tool, and then the audio picked up. So that's one of the minor challenges. Uh, the bandwidth, as usual, it's always a concern. Um, if they have a low bandwidth, obviously the video is not going to work. It's going to be just the audio portion. Uh, so those were the challenges I would say I would have faced in this during this pandemic.
Thank you very much, Balaji. Yes, from a user perspective, or even from an IT admin perspective, right? I've been a sysadmin, and I know uh, getting into troubleshooting or remote troubleshooting is always a challenge. And yes, even for small issues that we have to remotely troubleshoot, it's crucial. When they are at home, it's completely different. It's a different ball game, and we will have to prepare our network accordingly, establish remote connections, patch the vulnerabilities because of that. And yes, it's definitely a challenge, and I'm happy that our tools gave help you out in many ways. And Romanas, from the support standpoint, how did this collaboration do? What's your expertise on these? I mean, experiences on these remote collaboration tools, and if you can give your view about the different ideas and the tools that we have, how user can utilize them for remote work collaboration, it will be very helpful for us.
I look at this collaboration in two ways. One is the IT teams need to collaborate for troubleshooting and solving an issue on one endpoint by doing a remote control. This is one aspect of it. The other one is end users have a need to collaborate for the business need, right? Not for the IT, but for the business need, they need to collaborate because there are no meetings, as you said. There are no meetings and person to person, face to face interactions. It has to be done to make some decisions or get suggestions. Yes. So we have tools from ManageEngine and also from Zoho to address this. So I'm going to just show you a slide which will have more detail just to um, put it in easier mode. So these applications, Unified Endpoint Management has remote control, and this remote control is already available as a separate product on-prem and cloud, right? Now, this remote control is basically for the IT teams. They should be able to collaboratively work on one endpoint whenever there is an issue, when one guy is trying to troubleshoot that, and when something else also pops up. Uh, so when he's not expert in that, he could call an expert and who can join in the same session, and they should be able to work on it. And when I say collaborative mode by remote control, it will have the chat functionality. It will have the file transfer. So a lot of shortcuts for easy remote management, remote control, and remote management. So that is something for the IT administrators to collaborate to solve any help desk issues which are raised by the end users. Right. This is one aspect of it. The second one is basically Zoho Assist, right? It's also a separate product from cloud where you should be able to use it for troubleshooting. And again, it's collaborative mode. And I could give you one more scenario when there are cases where the machines of the end users cannot be taken home, or there are some sensitive, important data, so they are already available in office. Because of this pandemic, the users of those endpoints are away, uh, working from home. So there are arrangements in such a way that they should be able to remote in using the assist. Here, if you are using this, you are avoiding a need for the VPN. You can directly connect to the machine. So through assist, you log in into your machine, and from there you access the application or start working on your business applications directly from there. So that's one way of doing collaborative or troubleshooting or connect to your own mission kind of setup that's using assist, right? And finally, if you look at the end users, as I said, there is no way to have face-to-face meetings in these days. So Zoho meetings, webinars can be used for engaging people in one-to-one in the same room kind of environment, face-to-face video conferencing, and voice over the internet or phone way of doing the presentations, meetings, um, or webinars even, to ensure that the end user need to collaborate can be addressed through this. So though the technology is basically the same, the application wise, they are all solving different problems, and they are being used for different business objectives. So these are all the remote control based and collaborative based tools which are available for admins and users to make use of it. During this pandemic, these tools were preferred and effectively used by more customers and users.
Thank you very much for that detailed information regarding the remote tools to manage. I'm very sure this information will be useful for a lot of our folks who are viewing this webcast, and they could definitely make use of these tools to manage their remote workforce. Thank you very much. And Balaji, thank you very much for your views as well. With these questions, we are going to the end of this part one of this webcast, and we are going to have two more parts that's going to come up. What can you expect from the second webcast? We're going to talk about how endpoint security is important in the industry and what's going on with that. We're going to again ask our guests and see what is there on the industry and what's there on the ManageEngine side. And we are also going to talk about back to office situation, how to handle back to office, and what are the different challenges that you will face as an IT administrator and how to resolve them. We're going to talk about those, and what are the potential threats that are coming up because of this remote workforce, and how to safeguard your endpoints from that. And we are going to talk about these things on the part 2, and then part 3 we'll talk about other issues related to the remote work. So folks, thank you very much for viewing this webcast. Please make sure you watch this space for part 2 and part 3. We're going to discuss more about this digital workspace. Until then, thank you very much, and you guys have a wonderful day. Bye bye.